back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for we are back here on the GSM.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, August 30th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Go to the $ icon in the chat. When you do this, you can put out a super chat that I can acknowledge during the live broadcast, and it just makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, and the alternative way to help out the show is also going to the link on the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. Any way you can help out the show really means the world to us. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We are going to talk about Brandon Aiyuk's contract extension. That's right. We finally made it. We made it to the end. So he got a new contract. We'll get into the specifics of it, and we'll talk about him and the 49ers and as they can now move forward from this. So we'll get into that. I'll also talk about Ja'Marr Chase. So, CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Aiyuk, they got their new contracts. But now Ja'Marr Chase is looking for his new contract. And he's not practicing for the Bengals. And we're a little over a week away from their first game against the Patriots next week. So, we'll get into that discussion. I'll also talk about Malik Nabers for the Giants. He's going to be wearing number 1. He changed his number. He was wearing 9 for most of training camp, the preseason, but now he's going to be wearing number 1. And I want to talk about that because that's kind of sparked up some controversy, and I wanted to give you my take on it. Then in the fourth part of the show, we'll talk about Tom Brady as he's looking to become a part-time owner with the Raiders, but that will lead to some restrictions with him now being a broadcaster with Fox. So I want to get into that as well. And then a couple of things in the final part of the show. We'll go over some of the games from last night in college football. I wanted to talk about Colorado and North Dakota State. That game was an exciting game to watch. Get into, just looking at some of the big matchups for this weekend, but also giving you my NFC North predictions as well. So that'll be a double segment to end off the show. So let's get into the first topic now, which is talking about Brandon Aiyuk. So, listen, if I had like a confetti cannon or something, I would have, shot it off on the show right now because it was a long time. This took a while, and I didn't know if there was going to be an end in sight. It was just a lot of, they're talking, they're set to meet. Now he could be traded. You had teams like the Patriots, the Browns, and the Steelers in on him, and the Steelers supposedly had a deal in place to acquire him, and they were just waiting on the 49ers to sign off on it. Again, still showing up to practice, but not playing. Not practicing, just showing up and being present, but not doing any kind of physical activity. But yesterday, the news broke that Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers finally came to an agreement. And it's a 4-year extension worth $120 million, $76 million guaranteed, $30 million a year, the annual AAV, which is tied for 5th in the NFL with Tyreek Hill. The total contract ranks just below Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions. So those are the specifics of the deal. But yeah, it's just, well, also I forgot to mention Aiyuk requested a trade as well. I mean, well, kind of figured because, the teams were offering the 49ers or giving the 49ers offers. But yeah, it's been quite a saga. And Chillmatic in the chat, GSMC, sup? What's going on? How's it going? Yeah, it's just, I am so happy that this is finally over because this has gone on for so long. And now, well, the 49ers have gotten past this, but now they have to worry about Trent Williams because he's another guy that's looking for a new contract. And he's holding out. So it seems like the 49ers were really focused. Now, they've been in contact with Trent Williams. They've been talking with him because I was watching SportsCenter last night, and SVP was talking to Adam Schefter. And, yeah, so they're having discussions. So, really, it seems like, which it kind of makes sense, the 49ers are prioritizing getting a deal done with Aiyuk, getting that out of the way, and now they could put all their focus on getting a deal done with Trent Williams before their first game next Monday. Because Trent Williams, look, different position, but he is a very important player on this 49ers offense. He protects Brock Purdy. And you saw last year when he got hurt, and Deebo Samuel also got hurt, the 49ers offense struggled. They really, really struggled. They went on that 3-game losing streak. So, I mean, you got your full array of weapons for this game. Now, Christian McCaffrey's still not practicing, but he's probably going to play. My guess is he's going to play against the Jets. You got your full array of weapons, but you got to get Trent Williams back. So they got to work on that. But at least when it comes to Brandon Aiyuk, this situation has resolved itself. And now we can move forward. Now, how is, all that time that, he wasn't practicing, how is that going to affect him on the field? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. But they at least have him back. And I saw a quote from Kyle Shanahan saying that, he was preparing for life without Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk for week 1. Well, one of those guys you got back. Now they got to try to get a deal done with the other. And I do have confidence that the 49ers are going to be able to figure it out. But the other thing, too, is, Brandon Aiyuk is, how old is he? He's 26? Oh, I might be wrong on that. He is, because Trent Williams is 36. Yeah, Aiyuk is 36. So Trent Williams, I think, is 36. He's an older player. So, you worry about, him taking the field, not really, practicing. How is that going to affect you? Like, you're at risk of an injury, too. But, we'll see what happens. Chillmatic in the chat says, longest 6 days in history right here. Yeah. I mean, you really got to hope that they're able to figure it out because, they don't have Trent Williams going into this game against the Jets. I mean, listen, the Jets, we'll see what kind of season they have, but we do know one thing for certain. That Jets defense is going to be very good this year. We could see how the offense is, but the defense we know is legit. And if they go into this game with no Trent Williams, that's going to be a problem for Brock Purdy. But at least he's got his full array of weapons. He'll most likely have his full array of weapons. So, yeah, no, the Brandon Aiyuk saga has finally ended. We can move forward now. Now we got to talk about Ja'Marr Chase, which I'll get into in the next segment. But it's just that took so long. But we made it. And now and that's great for Brock Purdy because that's a big weapon. And losing him in the short term, I think it would have been rough cuz you got some young guys, you got Juwan Jennings that could, fill in, but they're not going to it's hard to replace this production that you have here. They drafted Ricky Pearsall, I guess, as an insurance policy just in case, they traded one of their receivers. But no, they got both Aiyuk and Debo, and you got Pearsall, you got Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. They're ready to go. So we'll see when they take the field for the first time against the Jets on September 9th. And will Trent Williams be joining them? That's the next question. Chill in the chat says, I developed Aiyuk fatigue, but refreshed now. Yeah, I'm right there with you. It was, that took way too long. And it's just like every update that we got, it was like, well, they're going to meet. He's at practice, but he's not practicing. And it was just like, can we get to a resolution, please? That's all I ask. And we did. With now, a little over a week before their first game, but a little less than a week before the first official game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. So, but let me know what you guys think, though, about the Aiyuk situation. How do you guys see him performing in 2024, fresh on his new deal? So we're going to take our first break of the show now. When we come back, we will talk about another receiver who's looking to get a new contract, and that is Ja'Marr Chase. We'll get into what's going on there, give you my thoughts when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about Ja'Marr Chase now. He's looking for a new contract, and he continues to miss practice. And week 1 is right around the corner, and it's interesting because he's a guy that has 2 years left on his contract, whereas like these other players, they had one, like, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Aiyuk. So, and Jamar Chase, he figures, hey, I want a new deal now. I want to get paid like these guys and he is one of the top receivers in the NFL. But this creates more of a headache for the Bengals because T. Higgins has been looking for a new deal, and they were at least able to temporarily, hold things off there when they franchise tagged him. And it's more likely than not that, at least in my opinion, he's probably going to end up getting a new deal elsewhere, and I've said that consistently. Because my belief is that the Bengals are going to pay Jamar Chase and let T. Higgins walk. So that's where I'm at. But now Jamar Chase is not practicing. And it's interesting because there's some kind of miscommunication within the organization. Because Zach Taylor said that Jamar Chase was going to practice. And this week, and he ended up not practicing. Well, he was practicing, but he was, Zach Taylor was like for certain that Chase was going to come back to practice. That just hasn't happened. He's shown up to practice in regular clothes. Zach Taylor has said, now these are some comments from Zach Taylor. Wasn't going to make any predictions about whether or not, now this is courtesy of Pro Football Talk. Wasn't going to make any predictions about whether or not Chase would be on the field, acknowledging it would likely be a similar outcome to Wednesday. But Taylor also noted that Chase has been on top of things in the building. Zach Taylor said he's been in every meeting, so he knows everything. He's been in the system for 3 years. He's played in it a 4th year now, so again, he knows everything. He also said, in this league, every week there's a form of adversity, and you've got to find the positives in it. Taylor said, our team has found the positives in it and is able to support a teammate, find positives for other teammates, and continue to move forward. Again, you can't waste a day complaining about a situation. You've just got to make the most of it and keep it moving. And that's what our guys have done. Again, we're all on the same page. We're all on board with this thing, so just excited to get to game week. So that's one of his recent comments. But yeah, he's not sure if Chase is going to play. Now, well, first of all, I hope Chase plays because I did take him with my first pick in my fantasy draft the other day. So I kind of need him to hurry this up. But yeah, right now I'm not going to hit the panic button and say, "Oh, there's no shot he's playing next week." But yeah, it's a little concerning. But also, I brought up the disconnect. How is it that Zach Taylor is saying that he's going to come back to practice, and that ended up not being the case? That's your player. How do you not know, as the head coach? How do you not know about what's going on there? And now you got him saying he's not going to make any prediction because he doesn't want to, say something and then it ends up being wrong again. So, because we were talking about this in our production meeting, and I said, yeah, there's some kind of disconnect there because that doesn't make sense. Chill in the chat saying Chase is like, show me the money. Management is like, you signed a rookie contract. Coach is a leader. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's some kind of problem there when your head coach says one thing and then the opposite happens. It just makes you look silly. But listen, Jamar Chase deserves to get paid. Like, there's no, question about that. He deserves to get paid. It's just, you would think that you wait another year and then the Bengals are going to pay. I mean, I don't think the Bengals really expected him to do this. But I get it, though. Like, you would think, like, wait another year because you got 2 years left. But you see how all of these receivers this offseason have gotten paid. Like, pretty much all the top guys have gotten paid. Like, Tyreek Hill got a new deal even. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, they all got new deals. He wants a new deal now. And that just puts the Bengals in a tough spot. Because I guess maybe they figured, like, we'll worry about it next offseason because we're going to move off of T. Higgins probably. And then we'll focus on giving him a new contract. Because this is really the last shot with this group, like, with the big three. With Burrow, with T. Higgins, with Jamar Chase. This most likely the last dance with these three together. Because T. Higgins is probably gone. But we'll see. And, if they're without Jamar Chase, if this goes into the regular season and he's missing regular season games, I mean, that's a huge loss for them. But you still got T. Higgins there who, could step in and he could be your number one. But, you got some young guys that, got to step up and take on a bigger role like Jermaine Burton, who they drafted. I don't know how they're going to be able to run. Well, I think the running game will be okay with Chase Brown and Zach Moss, but you don't know. Chase Brown's taking on a bigger role than last year, and, there's no more Joe Mixon. Zach Moss did play well with the Colts last year, but, let's see how he is in a new situation with the Bengals. It's, you got some new pieces that you got to try to work in. And, having Jamar Chase there with T. Higgins, that makes it a whole lot easier. But, you lose him and you got T. Higgins, well, again, you're still going to be able to be a good offense, but you're definitely taken down a little bit when you don't have Jamar Chase, who's a dynamic player, who's a top 3 receiver in the NFL. If not top 3, top 5. So it's just, again, it's one saga ends, and now we got this. But again, these players, they miss regular season games. That does not help your case. I think that only hurts you. But I understand they want to get paid. I get it. But when that cuts into actual playing time, I just think that hurts. I think that ends up hurting you. Because I always keep going back to the Le'Veon Bell situation. Now, I know Chris Jones last year, he missed the opener for the Chiefs. I've brought that up a few times. But it's just, I don't see how missing games helps you. I mean, you could say, well, when a team goes out there and doesn't play well, that then they're going to realize, you know what, we need to get this figured out. We need our guy back. And then they give him the contract. But, it's just time that you're missing. They're important games. These games matter. And, you step back out on that field, and if you're not, conditioned right, again, injuries. It's just, it's not a smart move. Like, if you're missing, like, half the season, or if you miss an entire season like Le'Veon Bell did, that does not help. Different positions, but it's just, shouldn't do that. Now, I'm not saying Jamar Chase is going to hold out and miss time. Like, this could get resolved next week. Like, he gets a new contract and, that's it. But I'm just, I don't think it would be wise to sit out regular season games, because you're hurting yourself, you're hurting your team. But that's that's how I feel. So what does GSMC stand for? Golden State Media and Concepts. That's what that means. All right, but yeah, let me know what you guys think though about the Jamar Chase situation. How do you see that playing out? Chill says, I feel like it'll get resolved. Yeah, I mean, I think so too. But it's just a matter of when. Like, when is it going to get resolved? Because it's a problem if, in my opinion, if it, goes into the regular season. Because the Bengals are also a team that gets off the slow starts. Now, they play the Patriots to start the year, so I think that should be a win. But then you got the Chiefs after that. It's you need Jamar Chase. So, but before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comment recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. This will lead you to, if you want to help out the show, send out a super chat during the live broadcast. I'll acknowledge it during the live broadcast, and it just makes the show more lively between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, and any way you can help out the show really means the world to us. And the alternative way to help out the show is also going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker. Going to GSMCpodcast.net. Again, we appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day. And any way you can help us out, like I said, really would mean a lot to us. So, when we come back from our next break, we're going to talk about the Malik Neighbors stuff. So, he's going to be wearing number 1 going into the season, and we'll just talk about the controversy that's being surrounded by that. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about Malik Neighbors and him now switching jersey numbers and the significance behind that. Because it has stirred up some controversy, and I wanted to give you my opinion on it. So, he was wearing 9, and wore single digits all throughout college, but he switched his jersey number to now number 1. And now the significance of that was this jersey was retired. This was last worn by Ray Flaherty in 1935. And it was the first jersey number to ever be retired in professional football. Flaherty was an NFL champion with the Giants in 1934 and was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1976. Now, neighbors requested the number from Giants president and CEO John Mara, the owner, and he reached out to the family. John Mara reached out to the family, and he was granted permission to wear the jersey. Now, the Flaherty family initially had mixed feelings, particularly his granddaughter, but eventually they agreed to it, and they believe the number is a lucky number, might be lucky. So, neighbors will now be wearing that jersey. They saw it as an opportunity to honor Ray Flaherty's legacy. Once Neighbors' career is over, the jersey number will be retired again by the Giants. So here's my opinion on it. Now, initially, I'm not going to say I didn't think it was a big deal. I did think it was. Now, when I first saw the headline, I was like, that's interesting. Now, Ray Flaherty played a long time ago. Long before I was born, long before you were born, long before whoever's watching this, most likely before you were born, long before my parents were born. But when I think of a number being retired, that number is off limits. That number cannot be worn again. So when I see something like this, I sit back and go, well, does that mean any number is on the table? Can they do this for anybody? And if I was Malik Neighbors, and I'm looking for another number to wear, and I say, oh, what about this number? And they say, well, it's retired. I'd be like, okay, what else? What's available then? I wouldn't be like, well, can I wear it? But again, that's just me saying that. So I don't know what the exact conversation was behind closed doors, but it just, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. The biggest thing out of all this, Malik Neighbors has to be the guy. Because the Giants will look so silly if Malik Neighbors goes out there and he is a total bust. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Malik Neighbors, he looks like he's going to be a great player for this team for a long time. And if they can get a better quarterback in here, that's only going to add to that. Because I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be the guy. Now, again, hope I'm wrong. But the Giants really are banking on Malik Neighbors being the guy. Because if he's not, and his career flames out with the Giants, that is going to look so bad. And it already does. They're already receiving some backlash. And there's people saying, like, they pressured the family. Like the family felt awkward and they, I mean, again, they, felt like this is a way to pay tribute to Ray Flaherty. But, yeah, it's just an awkward position to be put in. And Malik Neighbors, said, like, he's going to, make sure that you know, that he honors Ray Flaherty by wearing this jersey. He goes out there and he gives it his all each and every week. Something along the lines of that, which, you appreciate that. I'm not blaming Malik Neighbors. He was great. Like, the Giants said, like, yeah, like, but we're gonna have to have a conversation with the family about the jersey. Now I don't know what would have happened if, they said no. Like, would that have upset Neighbors? Like, but what, and it's just like, why number one? But needless to say, he's going to be wearing number one. But yeah, it's strange. Now, I did watch the Michael Kay show, and they talked about this, and that's kind of why I wanted to give my take, because it was an interesting discussion. And they were bringing up, well, what happens if a player comes to the Giants and they want to wear 56 or 10? Like, are fans going to be okay with that? Like, I think a lot of people, especially young fans, probably don't care just because Ray Flaherty played a long time ago. But, yeah, like, if a player says, can I wear 10? Like, for me, I'd be like, no. Like, Eli is number 10. Like, no one is wearing that number ever again. And then for, like, my parents, 56 is Lawrence Taylor. Like, definitely no one is wearing that number. So it's just, it's strange. And a great example they brought up when I was watching the Michael Kay show is Aaron Rodgers. When Aaron Rodgers, sorry, I don't know what that was. I just stuttered, but Aaron Rodgers first came to the Jets. Now, what do we know Aaron Rodgers for? Number 12. Joe Namath wore number 12 for the Jets and has won their only Super Bowl. And the only way that Aaron Rodgers was going to get number 12 is if, they gave him permission. But you know what? He said, I'm not going to do that. Number 12 is for Joe. I'm going to wear 8, which is the number he wore when he played in college. Aaron Rodgers made the right decision, in my opinion. That's how you're supposed to do it, in my opinion. And again, I don't want to, like, bash Malik Neighbors because, again, the Giants gave him permission. Like, the Giants could have said no, but they didn't. But I think that is the proper way to go about it. If a number is retired, you leave it alone. Now, at some point, you're going to run out of numbers. Like, look at the Yankees. 1 through 10, all retired. Like, at some point, they could keep retiring numbers, but you're going to run out of numbers. Like, what are you going to start using, letters? Or are you going to have to recycle? Now, I don't think we're ever going to get to that point, but still, like, what if, like, in baseball, like, someone asked her, well, they brought up an example of, someone wanting Babe Ruth's number, a player wanting Babe Ruth's number, and the Yankees were like, no, but the player was like, well, Babe Ruth's not using it. Like, how disrespectful is that? It's interesting. And the other thing, too, is, like, none of this would be happening if the NFL didn't change the rule of, what number jersey certain players can wear. Like, now you're seeing, like, Sky Moore of the Chiefs is a wide receiver. He's wearing number 24. Like, this would not be happening if the NFL didn't, change the rules of how, what jersey numbers you can wear. So, yeah, it's an interesting conversation to have. Because, like, in a way, like, I do see, like, Neighbors wearing that number, like, yeah, you are paying tribute to Ray Flaherty. But also, like, I think that's going to put pressure on you to go out there and play well. Because if you don't play well, you're disrespecting the jersey that you're wearing. People are going to say that. Like, And the Giants got to hope that Neighbors is the guy. And I think he is, but it's just again, I would feel awkward. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to wear that jersey. So we'll see how that goes. But I know John Mara is not. John Mara is receiving criticism for it, and part of me thinks, because they lost Saquon Barkley, John Mara is like trying to because Malik Neighbors is going to bring in fans. Like, fans are coming to the game to see Malik Neighbors now. Like, Neighbors is taking over for Saquon Barkley as, like, I guess the mascot of the Giants. Because, great college career. He was their first pick. And John Mara wants to make sure that Malik Neighbors is happy and doesn't want to, cause any kind of rift. So I think this is me personally. I don't know if that's definite, but I could definitely see that they don't want to upset Neighbors, and he wants to make sure that Neighbors is happy, and he wants to be a Giant for life. And whatever he wants, the Giants are gonna give him that. That's just my opinion, but I could be wrong. Again, I have no proof of that, but that could definitely be a possibility. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, though. It's an interesting conversation. But yeah, if a number is retired, it's retired. You can't use it. But that's just my opinion. So we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we'll talk about Tom Brady. We'll talk about some of the restrictions that he's going to have if he does end up becoming a part-time owner of the Raiders. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to talk about Tom Brady and some restrictions that he might have if he becomes a part-time owner as the Raiders while being a broadcaster with Fox. And also, Chill in the chat is saying, who are your predicted division winners? So, yesterday I did the NFC East. Today we're going to be doing the NFC North. And I had the Eagles winning the NFC East. So, I'm going to be predicting the divisions and then, who's going to make the playoffs, who's going to, go to the Super Bowl, who's going to win the Super Bowl. That's all going to be, well, I'm continuing it today, but it's going to continue into next week. So, but like I said, yesterday I picked the Eagles, and today, you'll find out who I picked for the NFC North, which is in the next segment. So make sure to stick around for that. So, Tom Brady, right now, he's doing a bunch of different things. He's going to be making his broadcasting debut next week when the Cowboys and the Browns face off in Cleveland. And Tom Brady's pending bid to become a part-time owner of the Las Vegas Raiders has led to restrictions on his role as a Fox Sports broadcaster. So, these are the restrictions. Brady is not allowed to attend in-person or online broadcast production meetings. He is prohibited from accessing team facilities, players, or coaches. These restrictions apply specifically to Brady and not to other Fox Sports staff. Brady must also follow NFL rules that prohibit public criticism of officials and other teams, although he's still allowed to broadcast Raiders games. Now, he signed a 10-year deal with Fox in 2022, and he's going to be working alongside Kevin Burkhardt. But it's a lot of restrictions. Brady's bid for Raiders ownership has not yet been voted on by NFL owners due to these concerns. But yeah, that's like everything. That's all the work that goes into, putting together a broadcast. Because, you meet with the team, you meet with the players, you pick their brains, you see where everybody's at, you do the work, you do the research on the players, and, you have your, like, I saw a video of Ian Eagle, of his, his, like, stat sheet, and has all, like, the, players' information and things like that you could bring up during the broadcast. Like, there is a lot that goes into doing a live broadcast. It's a lot. And Tom Brady getting restricted, I mean, he's not going to be able to do his job, to put it simple. So it does make you wonder, like, will Brady back out and just stick to just broadcasting? That remains to be seen. Listen, I think he's got a sweet gig at Fox. I think you do the broadcasting, give it time, see, how it goes. And maybe at some point he doesn't like it. And he backs, well, he got a 10-year contract, so I don't know if he's going to back out of that. But maybe you think this isn't for you, and you decide, well, I want to be an owner. So then, I mean, maybe the opportunity isn't there for the Raiders, but maybe it's there for another NFL team, possibly. I don't know. That's just one thing I thought of off the top of my head, but yeah, like, how are you going to be able to do a game? How are you going to be able to, like, get more insights on, certain players? Like, obviously, the stars, but, there's going to be guys that you might not be too familiar with that, maybe they have a big game, they make a crucial play in a game, and you got to talk about it. You might not, and you don't really know that much about a certain player because you didn't have access to the team that you're covering. I don't know, it's weird. And you would think, like, there wouldn't be this much restrictions, but that's the world that we live in. And that's these rules that have been put in place for this. And this is a unique situation because, where else are you going to see a part-time owner being a broadcaster for, a team in the NFL? That doesn't happen. But that's what makes this a unique situation. Tom Brady's trying to make the most out of, his post-playing career. But now you got things conflicting with each other. So it's like, you're going to have to pick one. Like, it's like when you're younger and, your parents are like, hey, which sport do you want to play more? You're in soccer, you're in baseball, you're in basketball. Like, you got to pick one. Now, for me, I didn't want to pick any. I was like, let me just stay home and do my homework, and I can play with my friends after school. Because Little League got very competitive. But it's kind of like that, though. It's like just pick one and stick with that. And probably lean more towards the broadcasting. Because now, I think even if Tom Brady does become an owner and he gets put under these restrictions, I think he would still be able to make it work just because he's Tom Brady. But, Tom Brady is always looking to be the best. And with these restrictions, that is prohibiting you from being the best at what you're doing now. So I think the best decision for him is say, you know what? We'll come back to this at a later time. Because I think he does have, he's a part-time owner, I think for a soccer team, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he wants to, he loves the NFL, so, he wants to, own part of a franchise. But this could be something that you come back to at maybe a later time and just focus on the broadcasting. That's my suggestion. Again, this is just a regular guy in his bedroom doing a podcast saying it. So this doesn't hold that much weight. Really, no weight. But that makes the most sense. Because, again, you're not going to be able to do your job if this gets passed through. But that's my opinion on it. I mean, whatever happens, happens. But it's definitely interesting. Because, I never knew of any of this. Because nothing like this has happened before. If a broadcaster who, is the greatest quarterback of all time, now a broadcaster trying to own a team, and now there are going to be restrictions on what you can and cannot do because you're an owner and you're a broadcaster. Like, again, looking at the restrictions, Brady must also follow NFL rules that prohibit public criticism of officials and other teams, although he's still allowed to broadcast Raiders games. So, if someone makes a bad play, or if there's, again, he could probably spin it to where it doesn't sound like he's criticizing an official or a team. I think he's got to, what is criticizing and what isn't? Because, what if he just saying, a player missed a block or something? Like, if it's something like that, he's criticizing the player for missing a block. Like, that, you can't do that. I don't know. It's got to be more aggressive than that. I don't think he can come on the air. Again, unless you're hosting, a radio show, can't be doing color and being like, oh, man, this player stinks. Now, he's not going to do, he wasn't going to do that, restrictions, no restrictions. But that's just at least one thing that, would get him in trouble. But, and if you're criticizing a quarterback, if a quarterback makes a bad decision, throws a pick, oh, you had, the check down open, you had this guy open, what would that fall under? Him criticizing the team, or him being an analyst and just saying, this is what happened, this is what he should have did? I don't know. It's a unique situation. we'll see what ends up happening if he does, indeed get, the bid and he becomes an owner. Because that is an interesting situation. But I think most people would say probably back out of it and just focus on being a broadcaster. And the other thing too is Brady aware of that? Like, was he aware of that? That's what I want to know. Like, were you aware of these restrictions that you would have as a broadcaster if you end up becoming an owner or a part-time owner? And if he didn't, like, would he have changed what he did? Would he not become a broadcaster? Would he not have tried? Would he not have tried to become a part-time owner? Like, what would he have done? Again, just something to throw out there. I don't know the answer to that. But let me know what you guys think, though. It's a unique situation, and we'll see how that plays out. So we are going to take our final break of the show now. When we come back, I'll touch upon college football. I'll talk about, because I did watch the Colorado game last night, so I wanted to talk about that. I also wanted to get into just take a look at the big matchups for this weekend. And then we'll also get into my NFC North predictions. So a double segment, if you will, to end off the show here. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, I'm going to talk about college football for a little bit. And then also we're going to take a look at my NFC North predictions. So a double segment here. But it's not really breaking news, but I just kind of want to use the feature anyways. Yeah, so I was going to bring this up a little bit before, but Mike McDaniel of the Miami Dolphins, he signed an extension. So I wanted to bring that up, but also mainly because I wanted to use the breaking news feature that we got. So, so there were some games last night. Well, there was a lot of games last night in college football. Well, first I want to bring up some of the scores. So, again, didn't watch these games, but Arkansas beat Arkansas Pine Bluff 70-0. 70-0. And then SF Austin won their game 77-0. That just goes to show you, like, just how crazy college football can be with these scores. You know, how different it is from the NFL because, we saw 70 points well, talking about Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins scored 70 points on the Broncos last year. But it's just it's crazy how, some of these college football scores can be, how out there they can be. But I wanted to get into talking about Colorado and North Dakota State. So I did watch that game. I did watch pretty much the whole game. Shedeur Sanders played really well. He's going to be one of the top quarterbacks, that gets taken in next year's draft if he does declare for the NFL draft. Well, I mean, he is. But he's going to be one of the top QBs. He went 26 of 34 for 445 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Big games from both receivers. Jimmy Horn Jr., 7 receptions, 198 yards, and a touchdown. Travis Hunter, 7 receptions for 132 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, last year, he had 5 touchdowns in total, I believe, and he had 3 in the opener. So, he is going to get well over 5 touchdowns this year. He should. But yeah, Colorado's offense was solid, but the problem is their defense. Cam Miller, the quarterback for North Dakota State, he went 18 of 22 for 277 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. They ran the ball for 157 yards in total, North Dakota State. 2 rushing touchdowns by Cam Miller. He was their leading rusher, actually. He had 81 yards rushing. But yeah, it did get a little dicey at the end. The game got off to a fast start because North Dakota State, they, scored a field goal on their first drive. Colorado scored a touchdown on their first drive. Shedeur Sanders connected with Travis Hunter for a 41-yard touchdown. The game did go back and forth. North Dakota State was up 20-14, and then it was 20-17 at the half. Colorado came out and scored a touchdown. Travis Hunter scored a second touchdown to make it 24-20. Then it was 31-20. Travis Hunter's third touchdown got scored in the fourth quarter. Then it was 31-26. Cam Miller had a 20-yard touchdown run, and then they didn't get the 2-point conversion. But what was interesting was on the final drive of the game, North Dakota State had 1 timeout. And I forget how many seconds was. I mean, there wasn't that much time left. But Colorado threw the ball on first down. And even I was like, why are they doing that? And that, it didn't cost them. They won the game, but, that was, they were trying to go for the kill shot. But in that spot, they shouldn't have done that. Because, with the new rule now, the clock stops on every first down. So, North Dakota State is driving. They're converting first downs, the clock's stopping. There were some complaints about the officiating, which, when the NFL starts, there's going to be even more of that. But Cam Miller threw a pass. It didn't make it to the end zone, but, they ended up making the catch. And they were down, inside the 10-yard line. And that's how the game ended, on a Hail Mary. But, again, they weren't in the end zone. And it was funny because Dion, at the end of the game, they were interviewing him, and he said, I'm not going to use profanity, but I thought it, or something along the lines of that. So, because he was probably like, what are we doing, guys? But, yeah, Colorado's offense is good. It's just... It really seems like the defense is still a problem. I know from looking on social media, people are saying the front 7 looks good. It's just the back end. It's a problem. But yeah, it's just, that's really the thing. They're going to be a good offensive team, but what's going to hold them back this year is probably their defense. So, and I know that they played against North Dakota State, and North Dakota State and that's the school Trey Lance went to. North Dakota State is not looked at as a, superior opponent, but, you know, it's fun to watch that team, I got to say. So, and obviously being a Giant fan, you know, you want to see the Giants maybe get a Shedeur Sanders if, you know, the Giants are in position to do that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the game. Let me know what you guys think, though. That was an exciting game to watch. Missouri was all over Murray State. They won 51-0. UNC and Minnesota, that was a close game because they were losing that game, but they came back and won. They kicked the go-ahead field goal. They won 19-7. Rutgers, they won their game big. What they win by? They won 44-7 over Howard. NC State won 38-21. But yeah, I'm not gonna go through every single game. But yeah, so those were some of the games from yesterday. Now for tomorrow, there's big games tonight too. You got Oklahoma and Temple, TCU and Stanford, FAU and Michigan State. But tomorrow, you got the really big games. You got Clemson and Georgia, Penn State and West Virginia. I mean, I'm just, just to name a few. Florida and Miami. I just want let's see who else. I was trying to find like some of the other Michigan and Fresno State. But yeah, that's just, I don't want to go through every single matchup, but yeah, that's just some of the matchups for tomorrow. Ohio State against Akron. Ohio State's a 48.5-point favorite. That's the other thing too. The spreads in college football are they're crazy. And then on Sunday, the big game, before the NFL, you got USC and LSU. That's a standalone game on 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. So that's what's on tap for the weekend. Some good games there. Going to try to focus on Georgia and Clemson, hopefully. And definitely USC, LSU. So, with the last couple minutes here, let's now go through. Let me know what you guys think, though. What's an exciting matchup? What are you most excited for the weekend with college football? So I did want to get into quickly the NFC North and how I have the standings. So this is what I got. I got the Vikings at 6-11, finishing in last place. The Bears at 9-8, Packers 11-6, and then the Lions at 12-5. I think the Bears, I've said it all along, I think they're going to be a team that gets off to a slow start, and then they're going to finish strong, kind of like last year. And I think they might just miss out on the playoffs. Because when I was going through who I have making the playoffs, I have the Packers and the Lions both making the playoffs. But then I have the Cowboys, and I also have the Rams making the playoffs too. So that's going to leave the Bears as the odd team out. So they're just going to miss out. I'm still going to give the Lions the respect that they deserve. I think they're going to finish with at least a top 2 seed. I had the Eagles at 12-5 as well. So, there's going to have to be a tiebreaker that, separates the two. And I still look at the 49ers as the best team in the NFC. But yeah, I'm going to give the Lions the respect that they deserve. Still put them ahead of the Packers at 12-5. The Packers, I think, are going to be really good this year. Jordan Love, another year under his belt. Josh Jacobs now in the fold. I'm hoping for a big year out of him, especially because getting him in fantasy. So I got them finishing in second. Bears in third, like I said. Vikings, I'm going to give them around 6 wins. I like the Vikings team a lot, but the problem is the quarterback position. Sam Darnold, I think will win some games for you, but I feel like we might see more than just Sam Darnold this year at quarterback for the Vikings. And they're just in a weird spot because, again, they got a good roster. It's just the quarterback position is not great. So that's why I got them finishing in last. So, but let me know what you guys think, though, about the NFC North. How do you see it playing out? And, that is pretty much it for the show for today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, bear with me as I still try to get over what I got going on here. Still dealing with some congestion, but I'm hoping by when we meet again on Monday that we're all good. Believe it or not, I actually feel like I'm getting better. I know I sound like I may sound at certain points during the show. I sound like, well, like someone put it, that I sound like I'm gonna cry, like the other day. But I'm getting there. So hopefully by Monday we're good to go. But yeah, just continue to bear with me. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Chillmatic, I appreciate the comments in the chat. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. And so that is all the time that we have for today. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again on Monday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the games. And I'll talk to you guys on Monday. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.